This video is brought to you by HalloCasa.
Hello and welcome everyone to our 232nd session of HalloCasa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to Alireza Memar from New Jersey, USA. Alireza is the past president of the Greater Bergen Association of Realtors, the global coordinator for the Middle East and Africa at the National Association of Realtors, and the inaugural president of the Board of Advisory at the International MLS Forum. With over 4 decades of experience in real estate, Alireza has played a key role in connecting markets across the world from the US to the Middle East and in advancing MLS data standards globally. Alireza, I'm super pumped to have you on the show, especially after the International MLS Forum in Toronto where you attended. But why don't you introduce yourself to the audience in your own words?
As my name is Alireza Memar, I'm going to give you a little secret. Memar, which is my last name, in Farsi, which is my original language, means builder. So I'm a 4th generation builder. So that answers a lot of your questions, how I will have over 40 decades of real estate business and experience. That's how I started. It was a family business.
Perfect. First question directly. You have experienced the Islamic Revolution directly with your own eyes in Tehran. You were actually at that moment still a student. And this has been a pivotal moment for the entire region, which actually spans until now, which is still very important right now, this entire change. And Shah fled. At that time, Khomeini took over. Now it's Khamenei ruling. And I would like to ask you how you experienced all that, because during that and since then, there has been a huge brain drain from Iran, especially to the US, and most of the Persian people are either doctors, lawyers, or very successful entrepreneurs. Now you're spanning these two geographically very important areas, US, North America, with a huge GDP and the power engine, especially during your experience. Now, obviously, China is rising, but then also the Middle East with the geopolitical importance. How have you experienced this entire phase, and how has that helped you also to grow even stronger on an international career?
We have this saying, if he doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And that's what happened to me. Actually, my experience of getting stronger started very early in my life. I was not even 5 when I lost my father. And that made me who I am. That was the beginning of making my personality. At the age of 5, I became a man of a house at the age of 6, according to my mom. And my entire started actually a revolution that started when I was in high school. And just being where I lived in Tehran, and if you look at the history of the revolution in Iran, actually the revolution started from the area of the Tehran that I lived and the high school that I attended to. And majority of the people at the beginning of a revolution were in charge of the government, the new government, and all that. Revolutionary people were from my area of the town. And so I was in the middle of those. There was not a day that or a week we didn't have at that time, which was the Secret Service of Iran, coming to my high school in the neighborhood, arresting few people and all those things. So I lived with that before, actually, many years before the 1979, where the revolution happened. And the same thing at the school, the University of Tehran, that was actually last couple of years of my life in right before the revolution. It was full of politics, demonstration outside of the University of Tehran, in the streets, things like that. And that was it. And sometimes I feel bad for my kids. I have a kid your age and younger than you. And I feel bad for them. They didn't experience what we experienced, which built our characters and who we are as a human being. Because as I said, if he doesn't kill you, makes you tougher and harder. And that's what I experienced. And I never regret a second of it. And if I have to live it again, I'll be more than happy to do it because it made me who I am.
What was the moment when you decided, okay, I'm going to the US. I'm pretty sure it was quite easy to get like a visa there as a political refugee at that time, correct? Because it was, as a political refugee, it was very easy to get a visa in the US. What was the moment when you decided?
Actually, it was otherwise. First of all, for you to know, I'm not a political refugee. I got my visa based on work and my business. But no, actually, U.S. was not easy, and it's still not easy. As one of the hardest countries to get political refugee, and it's one of the main reason is because back to Germany, you have millions of Iranians and other countries as a political refugees in Germany. Germany provides you with the camp, refugee camp, with the food, with the shelter, with the sometimes work and things like that. U.S. those things doesn't exist. So it's the hardest country. And even if you apply for political refugee in U.S., at the moment you walk through outside of the court, you're on your own. You have to go make your own money, make your own shelter and all that. So it's very hard to get political refugee in U.S. And I was not one of them, but I had to leave country because of the political matter that was happening, which I don't want to go into it because, another talk for another time.
You mentioned your name is basically saying builder. It really is the meaning of it.
Yeah, I'm a fourth generation builder. My great-grandfather was a builder. My grandfather was a builder. Two of my uncles were builder. And I started my first project at the age of 19 and finished at the age of 21.
And then the change in the US, starting basically your own brokerage and starting to become a very successful real estate agent. What was there? How did you make it work? Because it's super challenging. New country, new culture.
Language.
What was there, the steps you took in order to be successful and also not to give up?
It wasn't easy. Giving up is not in my culture. It's not in Iranian culture, period. And mine specifically. I don't even know what giving up means. It's not in my vocabulary. It's always move further, move higher. And that's what I would believe. And it was not easy when I moved to US. I didn't have anyone. I didn't know anyone. I wouldn't speak English. Actually, I learned speaking English, reading and writing on my own without going to school at all. And I was not easy to start what I knew, which was real estate. Food business is the easiest business for anyone to start. When I moved to US, my first business was actually an ice cream store. I started with the food business, and gradually, once I learned the language and the people and met some people in the business, I started gradually to move into real estate. So it was not easy to do, and it took about 2-3 years to get my first real estate business done.
You then became also certified international property specialist. What do you think is the importance on having this certification and also this label?
Oh, it is very important because first 6 months of 2025, we had over $300 billion across continent real estate business, which from that over $300 billion, somewhere around $50 billion it was from US. And so it's a huge number of business happening internationally. So I wanted to be part of it because it's not that I'm doing this business in US. I'm an instructor. I teach real estate internationally. And I saw the opportunity. There is a business to do internationally. So I wanted a piece of it. And I got into it about 15 years ago.
You then even went this far and became the president of the Greater Bergen Association of Realtors. What was your role there at this association, and how did you help the association actually to move to the next steps regarding maybe strategy, execution, new initiatives?
Yeah, actually, it's a good story. The Greater Bergen Realtor Association was a merging of two different associations in Bergen County, New Jersey, which I happened to be the first elected president of that association. There were two associations. One was Realtors, the other one was Eastern Bergen County Realtor Association, and we were trying to merge them for over 20 years because we owned an MLS together. And it was not easy, but it must have happened in order to control our own MLS, because 5 years ago, we had over 600 MLSs in the United States. Now we have about 520. And a lot of smaller MLSs are merging with the large MLSs. And we wanted to control our own MLS. We have over 15,000 members in our MLS. And so I was a result of a merger of a two association to become a president and bring him up from two smaller association to a thing they called at NAR, National Association of Realtors, they call them mega boards. And we became a mega board by combining these two associations, merging these two associations. And at that point, it was my mission accomplished because that's what I wanted it.
What was the main challenge apart from that, like managing such a mega board of like 15,000 members? I imagine ensuring coherence, high standards, collaboration, communication. You're managing, like you're wearing, I guess, so many different hats there. What was for you maybe also revealing that you said, okay, actually, I was expecting that we are maybe further ahead the road. No, we still have to do this kind of homework. What were the challenges there which you also took charge of?
The challenges are, a main challenge is these boards are a broker-owned, realtor-owned association. We are non-profit associations. And these kind of associations are usually ruled by board of directors. And the board of directors, we have 15 board of directors in our board, 15 different way of life, 15 different way of thinking. And the challenge is always there to pass a ruling, whatever it is, moving forward. Is always challenged to getting at minimum 7 or 8 or 9 people voting on the same thing out of 15. So that's always a challenge, especially there is no money involved with this. And these people are volunteers. And getting them together in the same room, get the policies passed is always challenging. Plus, we have another thousands of members that we have to make sure to meet their needs in this environment. As this business is challenging and going, it gets worse as we go, as far as the challenges go. AI is coming. Everybody's worried about AI. The websites, the technology, trying to work out with the portals like Zillow, like Realtor.com, Homes.com, the competition when it comes to MLS system. So there are a lot of challenges that we have to deal with, and that's part of the life. Me personally, if there is no challenge, I don't want to do it. I have to have challenge in whatever I do.
And adding to this mix of challenges, the international and global scale, where do you think is the role of associations heading? You are right now at the forefront on the National Association of Realtors, leading the international expansion, especially for the Middle East, but obviously you have a global head. You know exactly what's going on across the world. Where do you think is the role of associations going? Is their importance strengthening, or do you think associations have to take care that to catch up or to stay on top because of portals, of organizations like EX, of a total new AI disruptions we don't even see coming?
Association facing so many different challenges. It's from the top, NAR, and coming down to the states, then to locals. There are a lot of challenges. We have almost 1.5 million realtors in the country. We have 300,000-400,000 non-realtor agents, which are not using the brand of realtors. And there's always a challenge between these two. Most of those non-realtors are commercial real estate agents, but there's always a challenge. There's always work in progress. It's not something that you can say, okay, today we're done and we're going to move on. No, this challenge never finishes. When you get big, you always have enemies. We have lawsuits, and then after lawsuits against NAR that NAR had to deal with. I don't know if you heard of the lawsuit we dealt with, or which changes our business after over 150 years of doing business at the same direction and same way. We had to change, and we did. We managed to change. We changed the laws and regulations and the policies at NAR, and we're moving forward. The challenges are always there. It's just how you deal with it in order not to be defeated and move forward.
Let's talk about your role in specifically at NAR. What are the main initiatives you're right now driving at NAR as a global coordinator for the Middle East? Is it only, and I say that in quotation marks, to be ambassador for the Realtors copyright label, or is it also going in line with the international MLS rollout, which you have been obviously driving as well?
It is much deeper than that, actually. As I said, first 6 months of this year, we had $300 billion of transaction globally. In the US, we have rules and regulation. They're set in stone. We can usually tweak them a little bit here and there, but the actual rules are there, and the rest of the world don't. We follow rules. We follow code of ethics, and the rest of the world don't. And that's a challenge for me. Let's say 1.5 million members of NAR I have a buyer or I have a seller in New Jersey wants to have a transaction in your neck of the wood in Germany. I need a contact in Germany. Do I have the same contact I have in New Jersey? I don't, because I don't have realtors in Germany, or majority of German agents are not realtors. I don't know their background. I don't know if I can trust them. I don't know how they work. So what we do as a coordinator, I'm a coordinator, actually. There are 6 coordinators and there are 26 ambassadors. Each coordinator has few ambassadors working under them. We have our ambassador contacting these countries and to make sure they understand NAR code of ethics, trying to recruit them as NAR member. We have over 12,000 NAR international members in over 85 countries. Germany is one of them. And my area of Africa and Middle East, trying to recruit, not because of they become member of NAR per se, because we want to make sure we can deal with the similar people with the similar understanding of code of ethics and how real estate is done in the United States, in order to be able to collect their commission, be able to make sure the client that I'm sending to Germany or to other countries have the same protection as they have in 50 states of the United States. And that's what the important thing is to us.
And your strategic approach is there usually via the local associations, I assume, because you cannot officially hold a realtor's copyrighted label in itself as a random independent broker in Spain, whatsoever. You have to go via the local API, and they then have the contract with the NAR. And by that, you're being certified. Is that the way it works?
That's correct. We have over 100 bilateral partners outside of the United States. NAR has over 100 bilateral partners over 80 countries. For example, in Germany, we have a bilateral partner. In Turkey, we have 2 bilateral partners. In China, we have 3 bilateral partners. It's a large country. So this association become US NAR bilateral partner by accepting a code of ethics. That's the main and the most important thing. That means we now practice the real estate the same way that we practice in the US. Now, in order to become an NAR international member, you have to be a member of that local association. That's how it works. First, a local association, then membership of that local association. They can become an NAR member, and they call themselves a realtor, which is the realtor is the trademark of the National Association of Realtors.
Absolutely. It makes also total sense regarding the operational feasibility and also quality assurance of the excellence, because you only have to audit each association and not each single member. I understand that. Now you mentioned the digital element, and yes, we have let's say the human factor from New Jersey to Germany. You mentioned that case. And now we go into the International MLS Forum. Tell us about the initiatives there. I read the news regarding the updates there, regarding the UAE. There was a huge update. I saw the GDX, which was launched with France, I think also UAE, if I'm correct, and also North America. But you attended, so give us an overview about the Congress.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. I want to clear something. When you said you're not a traveler, but I am. I traveled over 50 countries in the world. So whenever I'm traveling, the first thing I check is what kind of electricity those countries use. What kind of plug that I have to take with me? Is it 2-thing plug? Is 3? Is 2020? Is 110? Is 220? Is 240? Is 260? What kind of plug? I have to take this because at one point somebody made a mistake, not making this universal. The electricity started from United States. We have 110, right? The rest of the world, when they started their electricity, they should have followed, and they have 110. If they had that, I didn't have to check the plugs and it's a power of electricity every time I want to travel to another country. Everything was the same. And that's what happened about 4 years ago. Someone in some country, I'm not going to mention a country because I don't want people thinking I'm talking about some certain person. Somebody in some country decided to start the MLS with a different language that we use at all of MLSs in the United States. And we realized if that happens, what's going to happen, our MLSs will never, ever be able to connect with those MLSs outside the US. We have RESO, Real Estate Standard Organization in the United States, which all the MLSs in the US are standardized by RESO. So if you want to start MLS outside of the United States, just do a RESO standard. This way we can always connect. And that's how the spark came. And we decided to have a small conference in Paris, invited all the Europeans, nobody else. It were all European countries to Paris. It was a one-time thing we decided to do, to tell them, listen, if you want to do MLS, let's do the same standard at US. This way we wouldn't have problem connecting with each other in the future. And that was so well received. And we decided to do the next year in Milan. And the Milan got bigger and better, and we decided to do in Toronto, and it got bigger and better. And now we actually have next 2 years set. It's going to be Abu Dhabi, and we're going to be in Czech Republic in 27. We see the attraction. We see people wanted to come and wanted to learn, as we made a history for the first time in the history. 4 different countries, US, Canada, UAE, and France. We started the GDX as a global data exchange in real estate. And for the first time in the history of human being, 4 countries are sharing data with each other. And we're looking forward because we already have a lot of interest. Right after the day we signed this in Toronto, we got a contact by other MLSs in the US and outside the US that want to be part of this. So what this does, not only share the data, we make sure every person, every MLS which is connected to is a resource standard MLS. So we wouldn't have problem in the future. Then whenever you want to work with someone, you don't have to look for which blog to use. Everything is the same.
Here, going back a little bit, and I've had these conversations a couple of times, and I talked to Joe Schneider, I talked to Matthew Calamudil. So I know a little bit, but I still think it is, especially for someone from Europe, it is still difficult to get the concept of the MLS listing on just like a local level and ensure that we have all the real estate data updated, centralized, coherent with the respective brokers who are allowed to broker it, and also with the possibility to do broker-to-broker referrals. Now, this would have a huge impact. Let's say if we talk France, and I'm a small guy, and I say, I'm launching my local real estate portal. You can upload your listings, whatsoever. It's free. I'm trying to attack the big fish. This wouldn't work anymore because we want to have the data coherent unless I plug into the RESO standard. Is that correct?
Actually, yes and no, because portals have a different business and they do different things in this business. Portals in the US, we have the largest portals in the United States. Portal business is lead generation. They generate lead for the agents who have no lead, either buyer or the seller lead. That's the job, and they're very happy, and they're making billions of dollars, not millions, billions of dollars in this business in the United States. Outside of the United States, because of lack of MLS, portals are actually working as an MLS for the agents to promote their listings on the web, actually, because that's only because of lack of MLS. So unfortunately, because outside of the United States, portals that started before the MLS, it's very hard to make people understand the difference. In US, MLSs are working with the portals every day. Where the portal gets their data from MLSs. They actually buy it from MLSs. They don't get it for free. MLS has the listing, portals buy it and publish it and do a lead generation. Very clean, and everything is out there on the table. Everybody knows what they're doing. But outside in US, I'm going to give you an example. In Abu Dhabi, we started the MLS, and it was mandatory from July 17. Every listing has to be registered on Madmoon MLS in order to be published, period. That's a government law. Guess what happened? Between July 17 to end of July, 55,000 fake listings disappeared from the portals. Because on the portal, there is no limit. You have no laws and regulation. 10 people, 20 people, 30 people can promote the same listing, same property with a different price, different pictures, different real estate agent promoting it. But on MLS, because of when you sign as an MLS, as a member of MLS, you agree first, the most important thing, to cooperate with the other MLS members. You don't have that in the portal. There is no cooperation. If I call it an agent on a portal in a country without an MLS, ask them, listen, can I show your property to my client? They can tell me no, and I have no resources. That's it. That's what they want. But when it comes to MLS, all the MLS members sign the agreement to become a member that they cooperate. And that's the most important thing and the biggest difference between the portal and the MLSs. Portal and MLSs can work together in any country, as long as they're doing their job, which is different. MLS is job and the function is different than a portal. MLS works for the MLS members, which in the United States happen to be realtors, and outside of the US, doesn't matter. They have to be a member of that MLS in order to use that MLS to promote their listings, and the portals buy the listings from MLSs and turn it to a lead and do a lead generation, sell it to the agents. Guess how much? I ask this question everywhere I go in the world that I do my teachings, and I ask the agents, do you know how much a real estate agent pays Zillow, which is the largest real estate portal in the world, to have their listing on it? And they think thousands of dollars. The answer is zero. We don't pay Zillow. Actually, Zillow pays us to buy the data from us. So that's what's the difference between the portals and the MLS. I was in Turkey in a conference a couple of weeks ago, and we have a bunch of government officials in the different panels, and they're all complaining. All government officials complaining, evaluators are complaining, appraisals are complaining, agents are complaining. In order to value a market value of a property is only because of lack of data. And the appraisal, the bank evaluator, right on the stage, told everyone, every appraisal we do, every evaluation we do, it comes between 10 to 40% difference. And according to her, they have official a number and they have unofficial number, which about 40% different. Is because of lack of data. Where do you get the correct data? MLS is the only place you can go, because once you market a property $1 million and the property was sold $950, that will be this data everywhere you go in that country. You cannot change that. But I've been in the countries that person sold a $200 million property, and they registered at the registry title, conveying the title from buyer to seller for $500,000. You see the difference? So you can never have a correct data on those countries without an MLS. And that's a necessity of MLS that every country should have.
Thank you so much for the clarification. It boils down to a couple of things. It boils down to what Paulo Barros, he was on the show a week ago. He's president of Takeover, like the valuers of the European Union. He said exactly the same. He said, we have countries where we have transparency and we have countries where we have less transparency, using being like optimistic here and using
it
like
was
a
very
nice
nice actually.
The reason being used is data privacy, but we are in the European Union and certain countries comply and don't comply, and GDPR is the same for each country, so this shouldn't hold. And he says he has a huge challenge regarding appraising properties just because the ground truth data is not available. The second element you mentioned, and thank you so much for clarifying that, is, and I don't know if you like the word, but I feel there's a lot of local monopolies in Europe, especially much more than in the US, because of the lack of MLSs, because they have so much of power. I see that in Switzerland, basically owned right now by one huge conglomerate, the same in Germany, and they are charging a humongous fee. Now, the initiative which you are driving is actually necessary regarding pushing here more power towards the associations, because that's the owners, those shall be the owners of the MLSs, which we saw in your past presidency of the Greater Bergen Association of Realtors, saying we need to allow that we basically have direct access to the MLS, we own that, and then we spread it using RESO standards and whatsoever. And then it becomes a political element and say we actually have to talk to the European Parliament and pitches and say, hey, if you top down or bottom up don't want to apply it, we have to go even to Ursula von der Leyen, whoever is holding the presidency at that time, and say, listen, please ensure that every broker who wants to operate is compliant and is at the local association. And then it spreads also towards, you have to be a certified broker. You have to comply to Code of Ethics. We are increasing not only transparency, conducting business, but also the trust towards the brokers, because you see it in Germany, the market penetration of associated brokers, like only 8% of all people who just got their certificate because they went to the Chamber of Commerce. Is that like the approach which you're also pushing, or do you rather go bottom up?
We're not actually pushing any approach. Every country is different. Okay. For example, some countries in UAE, right, have never been in an election. Government rules. Thank God they have a great government. Everything they do is good for people. When I went in front of a person who is the manager, general director of all real estate, period, from the permitting for building, land, everything covers by this person. I went in front of him 2 years ago. How long it took me for him to tell the people that bring me in front of him, I want MLS? Less than 10 minutes. Once they understand the benefit, they want it. That's a country the government rules everything. Actually, first government mandate MLS in the world is Abu Dhabi MLS. Some countries like European Union is not government. Government cannot mandate this. There's a market mandate. So every country is different. In France, we didn't have to talk to any government member. We started MLS in Paris with 26,000 members now. Okay, so it depends on which government. Our initiative base is to make sure everybody has MLS, and every MLS is a standard MLS. That's all we care about. We don't make money in this. We actually, the time and effort we put on this, all the parties involved, is, you'll be surprised when we finish Toronto, because the RESO, kudos to them. They did a great job. They were in charge of Toronto, the conference. At the last day, they just shook our hand and said, take it away. They were so exhausted doing this. They put so much time and effort. It was a 12 years effort 12 months effort to get this thing done. And we just started. Actually, I had my second meeting today for international MLS in Abu Dhabi. We start the day after to do that. So we put 2-3 hours a day. And first of all, just for you to know, for everybody to know, we lost money in Paris, we lost money in Milan, and we might lose money. If from Toronto, we still don't have everything, but it's not about money, it's not about power. It is about doing the right thing. Make sure the future people who come to this business in the future, they can cooperate with each other, handle the transaction across the globe, across the country without the problem that we have today.
Alireza, thank you so much for your time today. I know you are already running into the next meeting. Thank you so much for giving us insight into your career, into part of your career, obviously not your entire career, especially starting with the moment of the Islamic Revolution, which I think is also culturally very insightful because yes, we are in real estate, but real estate is only a vehicle for a culture to thrive, I assume. Then also your next challenge, and I love the way you phrased it, that there's no giving up, to move, to start new with a new culture, new country, new language, and just keep going and not having your ego taking over maybe university degree and then starting with an ice cream business. Other people might be like, I'm too fine for that and I don't do that. And it is this element and this capability of not being too fine to do the operational stuff and the hard work. And then moving on and on to now a very high level strategic role and changing the world and the way real estate is being transacted, allowing transactions to be conducted in a safe, secure, and transparent way, and enabling also different stakeholders to really conduct business in a seamless way. Is there anything else you would like to mention to the audience which we haven't touched upon?
First, I thank you for having me here. It was a pleasure. I know we chased each other for a month, but I was traveling for most of the last 2 months, and I'll be home hopefully the rest of the month. But there is a lot to add, actually. There's a lot. I could do this for probably another 30 days and never finish. Because there is, if you remember, I'm sure you remember, 2008, 2009, 2010, 11, when the real estate market dropped internationally. It was for one reason and one reason only. Subprime mortgages in the United States. See how important real estate is internationally. One country, for the first time in the history, a bank to start giving subprime mortgage and destroy the planet's real estate business for a few years. So real estate is, last time I checked, directly attached to about 300 businesses, manufacturer, and is connected to everything we do. One thing, I mentored many agents, many brokers. I travel and I speak in conferences internationally. One thing I always remind all the real estate professionals is there is one planet, and the population of this planet is growing every day. When I moved to the United States, the population of the United States was 200 million. Today, after 40 years, is 350 million. And this 350 million in the United States need a roof. And that's a fact that you can't change. There could be tenants, they could live with their parents, could live with the family members, or could own their own house. But everybody needs roof. And that's the most important thing in human life. You could get away with not eating 2 days or 3 days. You can get away with having one shoes for the whole year, entire year, one shirt and one pants, washing overnight or wearing it next day, but you still need a roof. And that's a fact of life. And everybody has to remember how important real estate is to having that roof over top of your head.
Perfect. Alireza, thank you so much for those concluding words. I'm sending the best regards to New Jersey, and I'm wishing you a good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description.